I have all kinds of excuses. And we are live. Welcome, welcome all to another Thursday, another episode of the Mattriarchy, the internet show where Mats rule. That's the worst tagline I've ever started a show with. And I've used it more than once. Today, I am joined by some of these smiling faces. I'm behind Terraform, and we're going to pick some brains and talk about all this stuff. But first, let's introduce ourselves. And I'm just going to let whoever go first. So,
well, as always, ladies first. Meredith.
All right, you guys. I'm Meredith Loughran, and I am kind of the public relations person, social media person behind Terraform Comics, one of the founding members. And, you can find us all on terraformcomics.com. We have all of our social media links there, and we've got some really cool announcements that are coming up at the end of the month. And on that note, I guess I'll pass the ball.
All right. Well, since Rob's mic is muted, I'll go ahead and take it from here. My name is Luke Stone, and I am the I guess I'm the crazy guy that got the ball rolling with this whole Terraform Comics thing. So pretty excited about that. And I'm an artist and writer. Right now, I've got a book out called Hybrids and Sons of God, Trash Day Trade Paperback. It's our first volume of that. And so it's the first actual Terraform Comics release. Very excited about that. And you can find me at lukestonestudios.com as well as terraformcomics.com. So.
And my name is Mr. Anderson, and I am the unboxable, uncanny, advocating indie creator who is the king of indie comics because I apparently puppet people. I didn't even realize I had this power. Recently, someone told me I have the power to change minds and control people. It's awesome. I'm going to do great things with it. And I can
Jedi tricks.
That's right. And I can offend people with signs. I can make signs that cause more controversy than the actual CNN can. So you're welcome. I'm the most interesting figure in comics right now.
And the most humble.
Well, it's not cocky if you can back it up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Humility is really being honest with who you are. And if you are the best, it's disingenuous to not admit it.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyway, I want to know more about this sign thing. I know it's not on topic, but I'm totally curious.
Do you really want to know about the sign?
Yes.
Wow,
Okay.
he's opening up a can of worms.
It's my show, and I follow my whims. That's what I do.
How much time do you have? Because there's two signs that have offended people so far.
Well, I'll just preface the sign before Rob shows you the sign. So, because we talked on Twitter, I recently publicly admitted that I align with Comicsgate, not because of the fact that I'm a racist, bigot, sexist, misogynist, homophobe, or anything like that, just because I agree with the core tenets that was there. And many of the people that I work with over there are really, really nice people that are super, super diverse and super, super cool. So I recently did that. And apparently I'm a public enough figure that it upset a few people. And so Rob, in solidarity, though Rob is completely neutral and will always be completely neutral, so he says, he made this sign and as a response to a question on another web show that Varian Grant did. Someone asked a very pointed question about this particular group, and Rob said nothing and just held up a sign. And the crap began to fly.
Yeah. It was a sight to behold, actually, and I kind of stay out of that because I'm really indifferent because of my role. But it was just, it was kind of interesting to watch.
Winter superheroes guy. And then I made another sign that says free hugs and spanks, and it just pisses off people. It also turns people on. It turns the right people on. I'm not going to say who, but someone in this room's been spanked. It might be two people.
I've not been spanked.
I had a fairly traditional upbringing and crossed more lines than I ought to have. So I got a couple of licks that I had coming when I was young. So let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I just thought it was really funny that Rob got more heat for saying that he was an ally of people that are on either side of comics rather, than I got for coming out.
It's like, Comicsgate. What do we do about that? I don't know. But did you see Rob's sign? He had a sign.
Hey,
I think a lot of that had to do with probably the folks that I don't want to get too deep into all of that. But.
I earned this, and my husband videotaped, so there is that.
Oh my! See, that's stuff I didn't know.
We're
learning stuff on your show.
That's true. Actually, I had Kevin Strange on a while back ago, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Kevin. He's a fun guy, but he is a very like personally conservative dude. But his comic, Strangeville, is like super debauched, and so he was talking about it. And I'm like, I have just telling me a bit of the plot, and I'm like, that's something that has never been showcased on my relatively conservative show. And he's like, yeah, I'm not suggesting that's a positive life choice, but these idiots in my story did this. I'm just like,
yeah. I'm a fairly conservative individual as well. So I think Rob does some of the stuff he does to try to get me to blush, and it works.
Yeah.
So I love it. It's so fun to see the dynamic, but also, it's kind of funny. You have to watch out for the quiet ones because I think we have the wilder imaginations. I tend to be a little bit more quiet too.
What is this word conservative? I've never heard of it.
That's not true.
Terraform.
Yeah, finally, someone's calling BS on Rob. I love it. Matt, you're already my best friend now.
I spend a large part of my show simply with that phrase. That's not true. It's sort of my catchphrase. Actually, side note, I got blocked by somebody on Twitter just for saying that last week.
Wow!
Oh well, congratulations.
It wasn't even the full thing. I just said false, and this guy was like, false. "You're always and he blocks me.
You should have done it with a GIF. You should have done it with the Dwight. Yeah, Schrute. False.
Yeah, I debated it, and I was like, nah. It's 5 letters. It'll take less time.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knew that 5 letters could be so triggering?
Oh man.
I love Twitter.
There is a lot of power in the right 5 letters. Let's just say that.
Oh, good
but
point.
anyway, so you guys have kind of coalesced to become a company, right? Or an imprint or a brand, or how would you describe Terraform?
We are a company. Yeah, we're a first off and foremost, what we want to do is really kind of set with that label, that brand, is that it's quality, that we're really striving for the best quality and that it's customer service. So we want to work with creators that want to get the best quality out there, and they want to have the consistency with the customers, and they want to do what's right by the customer. And so that's kind of what we want. We want it to be kind of a brand that kind of emulates that kind of thought when you hear it. But yeah, we are a full-blown publisher. We will be doing distribution, and we add editorial input to things. We will also be creating some of our own Terraform Comics IPs, so things that are owned and operated by the publisher itself. And so yeah, we're a full-blown business.
Cool. Yeah. And how many partners have you guys got?
There are 5 of us. Yeah, 5 of us total.
Now, Luke, you were on my show a little while ago, not just specifically to talk about comics themselves, but you've been working on your property, hybrids, for a few years, yeah? Yeah. It has.
Man, when was the last time I was on your show? It's been.
Oh, it's with the Faith and Christianity and Comics Mark II.
Yeah, so that was
May.
Yeah, May. With Doug TeNaple and Eric Hodson, which Eric is also part of our group. So he's he's our 5th member. So you're familiar with him. Great guy. And so it's been a while. It's been a while talking about that. But yeah, I've been working on hybrids. That's the one that most people know. I just worked with a guy named Travis Gibb on a property called Voodoo Nations. And so that one just got finished up. And then
I know Travis. We've been in the same space for a while, but I don't think we've actually had any conversations. But
yeah, so yeah, I did that. I'm working on a book right now with Rob, and Meredith just wrote a 2-page backup story for the trade paperback. So hopefully, if we get to the dollar amount we need to be able to add those extra pages, people are going to be able to see what Meredith is capable of. And here's the thing: she keeps calling herself the comic noob, but this lady can write. I'm telling you, she can write. Yeah.
My script is unconventional because I've never written one before. I'm kind of a work in progress, but I was told that if you can convey your ideas to the artist, then there is no like normal script out there. So
yeah, and actually, back when many years ago, before the turn of the millennium, I spent a few years trying to get DC Comics attention. And they made a big point at the time that there was no official script format. So anything that they would look at, they just had to be discernible was the only thing they had on it. And like Dark Horse had a specific format that they liked, which is sort of what my business partner Chris and I started with, was kind of that format, because it was really simple, really didn't take any special programs to run. And it was more space efficient than like a screenplay formatting, which I dislike screenplays because they take up so much paper.
Yes, they do. What's up, Nick? Nick is also working on a backup story for the Hybrids trade. As soon as we hit
cool.
that 8K, yeah. He and Altman. Yeah, you know, I always forget the names as soon as I go on air and it's live, and I should be remembering names, and that's when Todd Altman, Todd Altmans. Is it S? Is it plural? Is it multiple men or single man? I don't remember, but it's Todd. Todd. He's writing backup story, and Nicholas is drawing it. So very excited about that. And he also provided a bit of art that wound up making it onto the cover of our ash can that we're doing for Voodoo Nations. So very talented guy.
Cool. So how many projects are you guys hitting the ground with there?
Well, I'm going to pass that to Luke.
Yeah, we're hitting it with a lot. And so we've got, we signed up Austin Janowski, who will release a book with us. And we're probably going to launch that on Indiegogo and Kickstarter in January. We've got another guy we just signed on, and his name is Mark Darden. And Mark is got a great book called Guano Guy. Super funny. If you're not familiar with the book, definitely look him up. And I'll be sharing that like crazy as soon as all that goes live. So that's pretty exciting. I'm working on a book with Rob called Wolf and the Fox. And that one's going to be pretty good. It's kind of a superhero-esque book. Meredith is working on a one-shot that might turn into a, kind of a prequel, sequel miniseries thing, which is pretty good. So we've got that one that we're going to be working on. Dreaded Dinosaur Man is going to be coming out with Terraform Comics. Let me see. Cat Dad and Supermom is hitting the ground with us. And so we'll be doing that one. We've got, let me see, a couple of other shorts that are going to be going on continuously. And then we've got some other creators that we're looking at partnering with. We've talked with, we try not to talk about all that until all the contract stuff is signed.
Right.
We've probably got another, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I absolutely love about Terraform Comics is, our tagline is changing the landscape of comics. Because we are creators who put together this publishing, distribution network for creators. So it's by creators for creators. It's something that I really love. And the other thing is that we are really looking for quality. And I know that that's very subjective, but it's there are a lot of components behind that isn't just face value. Like, we all have different opinions as far as art and things, but there are core elements that really make a quality story. And so we look for that. The other thing also that really appeals to me is the fact that we are not subjecting ourselves to like one genre.
Mm-hmm.
We are open to so many stories. Cat Dad and Supermom is an all ages story. The story I'm working on is total horror. We've got zombies, we've got superheroes, we've got sons of gods. So it's not limited to any genre, and that is very exciting to me because that makes an exciting catalog.
Yeah. Now, are you guys working from like the idea of like a shared universe, or is it just like a potpourri of what comics can do?
I'm going to say yes to both. Yeah, some of them are going to dip into a shared universe, of course, and it's and so there will be the opportunity to kind of overlap some things.
Mhm.
But then also potpourri, man. Just it's kind of like when you go to the buffet, the Golden Corral, and you walk through there, and you know that pizza doesn't go with mashed potatoes, but you don't care. You get it anyway.
See, and actually, one of the things about when we started with Ideal back in 2006, and we're very, very small, very, very, whatever you want to call it. I feel even though it's been, 14 years, we're still just figuring it out, right? But with that is one of those things that we decide you have to have both. Where what we're trying to do with every story is as part of one shared universe, one fixed continuity. So our webcomic Force of Good and Evil is very silly. It takes a lot of flavor from Peter David's Young Justice, a little bit from Archie, a little bit from whatever else, as far as silly teenage action, but it's also high drama. But it takes place in the same universe as our serious detective stories, and which also shares history with like our horror stories and all that kind of stuff. And so they're just different lenses that we look at the same set of facts through. So it even if it doesn't seem like, for one example of a character we have in Forces, in Villain School, there is a teacher called the Black Magus, and he's sort of played for laughs in that story. But if you go into his past, before he became a teacher, he was like this super evil dark wizard who would perform sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. But then something happened, and suddenly he's sort of a comical figure within the lens of Forces. So I don't know if it pans out or not. We're still playing around with that, but
and that's the thing. Like you do play around a bit, to kind of get an idea of if things are going to work or not. So we've got like a ton of ideas in the writer's room, and so we've actually got a writer's room where we kind of throw these ideas around and we play with them, and Rob and Meredith are part of that process. Varian's part of that process. It's just it's someone said that, well, you need to have a really strong title to launch with. You need that Superman or that Batman. But, they didn't know Superman and Batman were going to be Superman and Batman when they launched.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what's really going to, you could throw a lot of things against the wall, and you got to find out which one's going to stick. And that's exactly what those older companies did. They threw a lot of things against the wall to find out what was going to stick. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about is kind of one of our plans to be able to get more titles out to the customers more consistently. So this thing that we're working on, it's called a 3x3, the Terraform 3x3. And so basically the best way to describe that is, let's say you've got a book, I've got a book, Meredith has a book. Rob's working on something, but he's not quite ready yet. Okay. But he might be ready in a month.
Okay.
So here's what we do. I know that I can launch the book, and you can launch your book, and Meredith and all that. And we could all try to send our readers and our fans to your Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, and try to get them to kind of pitch in. But you still have to produce a 24-page book. And there's going to be the expense to that. And there's going to be the time to that. And then there's going to be, the crowdfunding for that, or the try to just get the distribution for that. But what if we did something just really outside of the box? What if I took 8 pages, my first 8 pages, and you took your first 8 pages, and Meredith took her first 8 pages, and we put them together into one single book? We added a little cover credits thing in there. We wind up making a 32-page self-cover floppy out of that. Okay. That way, all I've got to do right now is I've got to pay my artist and my creative team for 8 pages. I can get that done, and I can really focus on that and really be able to spend a little bit of extra money to make sure the quality is there. And then what we do is we crowdfund that book, or we try to distribute that book. And now when I send people to go buy that book, for me, my people are going to go buy it. Your people are going to go buy it. Meredith's people are going to go buy it. And what happens is when they pick up that book, they get to not only read my story, but they get to read your story too, and vice versa. So now we're building some fan loyalty, because now we're sharing other great IPs with the people that already like our stuff. And then what we do is we release the next 8 pages the next month or two, and we do it in stages like that. But let's say, for instance, something happens, someone gets sick, and Matthew, you can't produce your 8 pages, your second 8 pages yet. Well, it's not a big deal. Not all is lost, because guess what? Rob's ready to go ahead and put in his 8 pages. So we start his 8 pages in that one. And so we can rotate things in and out and allow creators to be able to have a life, and things happen while still being consistent with the book that comes out, and still being consistent in quality for the customer. So we're able to take those ideas, take those IPs, spread them out amongst a larger audience, and get things started that way. So that's how we plan on doing that. And if once the story finishes up in those in the 3x3s, we run that. We wind up packaging that together into a single issue. We run another campaign so people can go ahead and get that for people, or we put that through our distribution chains in that manner. And if people want to continue going the 3x3 route, if that's how they like creating, then they can continue to do that. If they want to go ahead and do a mini series and launch it from there, they can. And so we have a lot of flexibility for the creator and for the audience, all allowing us to have a greater amount of control with quality, allowing more consistent output for the fans, and also more freedom and more financial resources coming back into the creator. So we feel like this is a model that's going to really work for a lot of people. Now, obviously, we're going to do one shots and series and things like that. Like Hybrids isn't going to go into the 3x3. It's already established. Someone like Mark Darden comes in, has something that's already established. We're not going to stick him in the 3x3 unless he decides he wants to put something in there just to increase his reach and his audience. But we have a lot of freedom that we can use with this. And so it's something that we're excited about, because we kind of feel it is changing the landscape of comics, especially in the United States. We see things like this in Japan already with comics, but this is, so this is kind of a different way of approaching it. And a lot of people are getting excited about it.
Well, and one of the fun things about that idea, which, I gotta say, I feel a little stupid. I've been trying to bash my head around ideas to try to come up with a different way of approaching production. And what you're talking about is that exact thing was adventure comics in the early 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or more fun comics back in the 40s. The 50s.
Or Shogun Run right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a tried and true formula that because I've been talking to folks behind the scenes about just ideas, pitching back and forth about how do we get more product, be more productive, and that's for some reason the more fun model, I'll call it. The 3x3 idea is a really good idea.
I thought it was.
Some people some folks are talking what about anthologies? Because Shonen Jump is hugely popular. It's a big thick book. I don't know how often they produce those even. I don't know I can't remember if it's monthly or bi-monthly or whatever, but that's mangaka work themselves to the bone, and they've got a huge distribution network already, and it's not reasonable for starting out that way. No. But bundling 3 8-page stories, that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really love about it also is not only from a first-time comic creator perspective, is that because I'm unknown in this area, in comic books and stuff. Mm-hmm. So by allowing to have 8 pages of my story, not only do I have an opportunity to have a little breathing room as far as paying for an editor, paying for the pencilers and artists, and all of the business side and all of the things that are out of pocket to try and get your first comic book out there, by allowing that time to just focus on the 8 pages, create a mini story arc there, pay for that, that's reasonable, instead of trying to come up with that huge nut altogether to have one book. Because I personally would want to have a book ready before I even tried to do a Kickstarter, because I'm an unknown and nobody's seen me deliver anything. So it by doing this, by going this route, for me would be amazing, because not only that, I'm getting associated with comic book creators, writers, and artists who may already have a name out there. So just by association, and then again, we are looking for the good stories. Just because I'm part of the Terraform Comics founding members doesn't mean that my story is going to get accepted either. I mean, if it doesn't fit as far as quality and stuff, they're obviously, we have the other 4 who are going to say, do better, and I can accept that. Or I'm going to be like, well, I'm just going to take my comic and go elsewhere, and I have the ability to do that because I own that story. It's not Terraform. Now, I also have the option of saying, hey, I've got an idea for a character, let's develop it, and we will do that as a team as well, and then that is Terraform owned. So I mean, there's a lot of different opportunity for comic creator. These 3x3s give that opportunity to people who might not have their name known, and just by being in that book and saying, hey, I'm published with Luke Stone, I'm published with Rob Anderson or Varian Grant, I mean, that man, he makes comics too. So
he's darn good at it too.
Yeah, so I mean, that is just amazing opportunity for me as a comic noob. And I really look forward to seeing people who are taking this business seriously, who really, really have that drive to create good comic books and see what happens, see where it takes them.
So I have questions, but also my battery is about to die and I got to plug it in. So Luke,
yes,
before I go, because I'm going to disappear for just a second while I'm doing this, I'm going to give you some talking to do. Tell us, how did you come up, or who came up with the idea for Terraform? How did you pitch it around? Tell us the story.
Okay. Well, first off, I was working with a group called Starcross Comics, and just a shout out to Joe Spicer and those guys, Ken Keller. Had a great time working with those guys for a couple of years. And it came to a certain point when it was very clear that it was like, hey, there's a new opportunity for kind of doing things a little different, and I just wanted to try it out. And so it was kind of an agonizing decision for me to make, but I eventually made the decision. When we started out, we had probably 12 people in the room, in the chat, trying to figure out, it might've been 10 to 12. It was a lot of people trying to figure out what this thing was going to look like, and having the idea. I said, hey, I've got an idea. I just want to do publishing a little bit different. I kind of want to start my own group, but I want to approach it in such a way that everyone is in lockstep and kind of at the same place in their idea of where they're at in their career and where they want to go. There's a lot of, the great thing about Starcross was that there was a lot of creators at different levels and at different desires. They wanted to put out a comic as a hobby, and that's something they wanted to do. Some people were a little more serious about it, and they wanted to release a little more often. And then, there was, where I was at, I want to make this a viable income so that I can, my main priority is to make comics an income so that I can stop taking a salary from the church. So that was my motivation. I was like, hey, I want to try to really take some aggressive steps in the course of the next 18 months that can lead me to that, instead of just kind of hoping and praying that it happens, but trying to make it happen. And then, so that was kind of the idea. And so we got all these people talking, and we're talking logistics and things like that. And it finally came down to the point. It's like, hey, this is going to be a lot of time. We're going to have to drop some of our commission things that we would do to work on this. So where's everyone at? I need to know who the core is going to be. And we finally settled down to where we had a core of about 6. And then that has, thinned down a little bit more to the 5, because over time you start to realize, well, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm pretty happy doing what I'm doing, and I don't really want to get into this, but we've gotten it down to 5. And so when we got together, I said, hey, here's my ideas. Here's what I want to do. Here's the end result, basically. And we started to work on a model that would help us get there. And so we, taking our individual creative abilities, that's what we did. We started to make this plan. And so Rob heads up most of our logistics stuff. So what besides being able to use his mind powers on people and and upset people with signs, he's actually very good. He's actually very good, very talented at logistics things. Like no one's like, oh, okay, well, we need to get this running at this time. This needs to run at this time, because he's project managed the different things all the time, and so he's pretty good at that, especially with like cons and stuff like that. And then Meredith takes over.
Yeah, one of the things I love about Rob is that he's like the flip side of the coin. You can have an idea and stuff, and it doesn't matter what side you're on or which way you want to go. He's always going to have that argument, so that we look at all the angles of the logistics, and it's just really amazing. I am so glad that he is part of the team, because that's so important. You know as well as I do, you could have a great idea and run yourself off a cliff. So you need that somebody to pull everybody back and go, whoa, let's take a look.
And that's the thing, is everybody thinks. I think that's part of the thing, is everybody thinks that their idea is a great idea, right? And one of the things that I think people don't have in a lot of group settings is what I like to call informed dissent. And there are some people that's just where they're at in life, is that person that just says, that's not true. And you can imagine that I might be a fan of informed dissent.
That's definitely Rob. Rob in our group. So I wrote a script. It's basically, this story is intended to be in the 3x3. Not every time. It's the fill-in. So I'm writing a couple of fill-in stories that's only going to be told in 8-page increments. And so eventually I'll put it all together in a graphic novel, but it's, the well, actually guy. So I write this script and I send it over to Rob. And Rob, do you want to help chime in here a little bit? Is he there?
I don't know.
No, maybe not. There he is.
I said I liked it.
He said he liked it, but he asked a question. He goes, why would the dad do that? There's a little part in there. He goes, why would he make that choice? And I go, I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I said, it's going to come in the story later. And he asked that question. And in my answer, I thought, man, he's going to tear this answer up. But he was like, okay. Yeah. As long as you're thinking about it.
As long as it makes sense by chapter 3, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to address it or the fans will. It's just one of those moments. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I get that entirely. I was working on a story that we're working on the background, and I realized as I was going through it that I'd never addressed the villain's motives for why this kidnap scheme was a factor. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So actually it's funny. Matt C is in the chat there. I actually called him up and I was like, dude, X, Y, and Z, I don't know what I want to do with this. And he talked me through it. It was great.
Yeah.
So
that's what we do for each other. Most people would hire an editor for that. Now, I do hire an editor and we do some of that, but once we kind of get a script it's pretty well done, I usually have these guys take a look at it again. And if there's a problem, they're going to see it, because really you want as many eyes on that stuff as you can. And that's what we do at Terraform for all of these people that we're bringing in. We take a look at it and we see if we're missing anything or missing any opportunities. Like there's some jokes that's like, it'd be really funny if you said that, but at the same time, we're also able to bring in, while we do that, we're able to bring in, especially with the 3x3, with some of these little 8-page stories that don't have to have a consistent art team. We're able to really test out some young creators and help them grow in their craft, kind of be mentors to them a little bit, but at the same time, almost selfishly, develop some really good talent that we can keep in our bullpen, so that's, yeah.
And so when you guys, one of the questions that I had too is about you guys are talking about doing your own distribution.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that has been a thorn in my side, I guess you can say, since we got our first print book done in 2007, right? About the only consistent distribution we've been able to find is going to cons or finding a few shops that want to work with us, and it's really a tough road to go with. What are you guys? What is your scheme on that?
Well, we don't really do the distribution. Varian Grant, who owns IndieVolt Media, IndieVolt LLC, he has a number of different companies underneath that banner. One of the things that he has been a company he's been sitting on and developing for a couple of years is a thing called Liberty Distribution. Okay. And so he recently did kind of a soft launch announcement that he had this company and he's working on it. And he's lining up stores and creators with content to be able to do distribution. And so he is approaching it much like you should, not with the idea that you're going to take over Diamond or take over these other distribution chains, but that you're going to find a piece of that pie, because there's enough there to sustain quite a handful of creators. And so we're actually working with him as he develops that part of the company. Of his company. We know that our distribution is going to happen through there. We're also looking at doing a distribution pack to Diamond and things like that. But quite honestly, I mean, personally, I'm not kicking Diamond out of out as an option, but it's not our sole option or even our highest option. Like, we're really happy with the idea of Liberty, that company that Varian, we've been able to talk with him. We obviously work closely with Varian. He's one of the five, one of the core five members. So we're very aware of his ability to really run that company once he gets all the pieces together, and we're very excited about it. But then we're also doing a lot of direct to store things, right now, until those things get taken off, until Terraform becomes more of a household name for some of these people out there, and we have more books in our catalog, which hopefully 2021 will be a massive year for us when it comes to the release schedule, as we're trying to gear up towards all of this mess that's happened through 2020 and keep things going. We're still going to be using things like Indiegogo and Kickstarter to help distribute and work with stores and different outlets to get our product into more hands than just direct to the customer through mailing it from our warehouse. So
well, I really think that if 2020, even 2019 has shown anything, I think that there's an equal viability in the concepts of distribution and direct to consumer. You look at what Tim Lim and those guys are doing with their partnership with Iconic, which is all direct to consumer. But they're still making sales through the partnership they have with Antarctic too, and so they're getting off the shelf sales, they're getting direct to consumer sales. Alternative's been doing that same thing where they sell to shops. They're handling their own distribution right now. Plus they've got their own web store. And I just think I think that it's really you don't put your eggs all in one basket if you've got the resources to build that up. And the fact you've got one of your partners that already had was dipping his toes in the pool, so to speak. That's an awesome thing.
It just all the pieces started to come together, and that was kind of the big thing with hey, let's find out who all is wanting to actually commit to this and be a part of the team, so that we can see what resources we have to hit the end result. I mean, obviously, a publisher, what do you need? You need an audience, you need capital, you need distribution, And so we have audience. When you look at IndieVolt Radio, you look at Rob's network with the comicbookadvocates.com, and you look at Meredith's network. We have audience, we have reach, and so we can spread the word and spread the word well. Right now, we're working on building capital with our first Indiegogo release. That's why our numbers are set. Our goals are set as high as they are, because we need some, additionally to be able to make that release as awesome as we can, we need some operating capital with it.
Yep.
And so we're working on that. And then we're using then we have our distribution chains that we're working on. So all of those things is kind of our big push, our big goals for the end of 2020 to have a good amount of that stuff established, and then really hit 2021 with a lot of great comics from a lot of great creators. That is our goal.
Very cool. So Meredith, you're working on your first project, right? If I'm remembering the story correctly. What kind of got you interested in the realm of indie comics?
Oh my gosh. Okay, my genesis story is that I kind of got in here tripping and falling in the door, and somebody just kind of scooped me up and said, "Hey, you're a creator." I am with Geek Insider, and I'm one of the contributing writers. I'm one of the associate editors. I also do the podcast, so we produce the podcast over there, and so this happened back in February 2020 before the world shut down. And I went to this little event called Space Coast Comic Con. And that's where I met Rob Anderson and Jonathan Hedrick and a few other people, Travis Gibb, a lot of other authors, Jake Estrada as well. So my job for Geek Insider was basically to go around and do these quick interviews and take snapshots of the cosplayers and things like that. And so in the follow-up after the event, I started interviewing people. I brought Rob on our show to talk about Barbara Unleashed and Cat Dad and Supermom. And we just kind of developed a relationship, just staying in touch with each other, sending news to each other, because with Geek Insider was that we were kind of floating around in the same universe of entertainment and comic books and things. So little by little, he had a daily show, and he says, well, we want you to be part of the Comic Book Advocates Network. And I'm like, dude,
Dude,
Luke, the inside joke there.
It's all about tone. It's all about tone and context.
Yeah. So I said, I don't do comic books, right? And he goes, yeah, but you're an advocate. And I was just like, all right. So I said yes. I try to say yes to these opportunities. And I didn't know what it was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to go with it. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, I have an idea. I'll be the comic noob. I will commit myself to creating a comic book story, because a script, go from start to finish, learn the industry, because it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to do this when I was younger. I've always loved to doodle. I love writing stories, but it's all prose. But there have been times in my life where I said a comic book would be so cool. What would that look like? But I'm pushing 50, guys. And for this to be my first time out there with creating the comic book, it was so exciting to do something for the first time. Like, when's the last time you did something for the first time? And so this creative process has really put me in touch with so many amazing people, writers, artists, pencilers, colorists, learning the business. Then Varian Grant kind of came into our sphere, and it just kind of learning really the business side. Randy Zimmerman is another one, where he was, just by listening to a lot of their podcasts and stuff and the history behind it, it's like, wow, there's just so much that it's just fascinating. It just pulled me in deeper and deeper. And then before you knew it, because of this kind of going around within the same universe. And I think this was something that Rob had said before. We're not like banging and smashing into each other. We're not trying to take each other down. Now we've got like Geek Insider, Comic Book Advocates, and Indie Volt Radio kind of working together in a cohesive manner. Then bring in Terraform into this network of advocacy, and putting out good content, whether it's comic books, whether it's entertainment podcasts and things like that. It's information, it's sharing, it is promoting one another. And that's just something I love. So I really, it was in my wheelhouse to do the things that I do. So as far as being like social media, I do it anyway. I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. Put it, maintain a website. Yeah, no problem. I can do that. Be social. Yeah, I do that. So it's just now the component that actually gets me in the group is saying, hey, let's get you published. And that's why I'm like, Luke, you got to get to your stretch goal, man.
Yeah.
That would be my first comic book credit, would be my 2 little pages in Hybrid Sons of Gods. I'm like, that's gotta happen, because I'm still working on the script for the one that I want to submit to Terraform Comics. And again, that's not guaranteed. They're gonna look at my script and go, there's gonna be some work that needs to be done, but a work in progress, and I'm so excited about that.
So, Rob, you've been really quiet, and that bothers me. So, let's go ahead. Tell me about how your introduction into this whole Terraform thing. Tell me about your journey, man.
Well, what it is I'm really the Sith Lord, and I just created this idea in everyone's head, and I made them all come together, and I will take the planets over, and they'll never know what happened.
Well, that would fit with the name of the company, but I don't believe you.
I'm always out there helping other people out. I never wanted to be with another group, because all the other groups, it was all an ego bath. Everyone wanted to get together, talk about how important everyone was, and they all wanted to go be fucking Marvel. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't curse. They all wanted it to be Marvel. And I didn't want to be Marvel. I wanted to be something new and different. And I said this year was the year I was going to make something, because everyone kept goading me to make something. But I don't like being in front. I don't like being the guy in charge. I don't have that polish, that sheen. I'm better to be behind the scenes and be the guy who's like, look, do what you're told. That's your job. Do your job. This is what it is. I don't care. I'm more for facts than feelings. So you don't really want a figurehead to be that person. You want to be the guy behind the scenes. I always say it like this. There are a lot of great generals in the military, but generally generals don't win the war. It's the guys behind the scene, or the other anthology for comic book fans. And I told Luke this when he said, well, why don't you join me? I said, but I don't want to be anything but Batman, the guy who comes and goes when he's needed. That's it. I want to be the Batman figure of the group. And he's there like, so you wouldn't want to lead it? I'm like, nope, I never want to be the leader. You can be Superman. Meredith can be Superman. Anyone can be Superman. I don't want to be the leader. I want to be the one in the background who gets shit done. Because once you become a figurehead, you have to kind of play by certain rules. Like, I always think of House of Cards, You can't do a lot when you become the president, but you can do a lot before you become a president. So,
I will interject just for a sec. That's how I knew I wanted to work with Rob, because everybody else wanted to be number 2. Like, everyone was like, I had other people clamoring for number 2. And I was like, and Rob said, hey, if you decide you want to start something, I'm on board. And I'm like, you want to be number 2? He goes, nope. I was like, Rob, welcome aboard.
I don't want a number. I just want to put out good comics. I've always wanted to put out good comics. I think I put out good comics. I take chances. I do things that are different because I'm an artistic person, but I put out quality. Like, all the things I've put out, I'm proud of. And that is something, working with other people, they have tried to force out things that I was not proud of. And that was one thing when I told Luke, I'm like, if I do this, we put out quality. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a certain way, but it can't have, bad lettering. It can't have missed opportunities. It can't have bad pacing. One of the things me and him talked about, and the biggest thing, because I have reviewed, let me put it to you this way. I have read over 500 indie comic books. I've done about 100 reviews. 400, I'll put the right fingers up, comics I couldn't honestly review publicly, because it'd either be a lie or I'd rip them apart. So I started doing assessments. After I did the first round of assessments, we already had people crying. Oh my God, that was too rough. You didn't understand this, this, and that. That's who I am, and I'm not going to put out something because I cherish the fans. And Meredith and Luke and Varian and Eric have all heard me say this. They are the barometer. They are the ones who are telling me if I'm doing good or not. When I go to a show and I put up my sign and I I have all that come out, and then I sell my books. When they come back to the table to buy more because they liked how I wrote, I know I did something right. When Meredith read the book and went, "Oh my God, you actually did something beautiful here with the topic that I didn't expect it," I knew I did something right. When I had Cat Dad and Supermom, and I made the religious guy go, "Wow, that's a great moral message," I knew I did something right. That's what I want my company to do, that I'm part of, and I wanted to team with the right people. And until Luke, Meredith, Varian, and Eric came along, I never believed in a group of creators who could pull it off, because everyone would put it out on the table and see whose was bigger, and when they all saw mine was bigger, they'd all get upset.
You're the man, Rob. You're the man.
That's
Seriously, our group, it's just amazing, because Luke came up with the idea, and he really he did speak of this earlier. We had so many people in the group chat, and he said, "Who wants in?" And I was just like, who am I, that I'm getting invited to the table here? This is crazy. And little by little, people are like, no, I'm out. No, I'm out. I have other commitments. No, it's like, great idea. We'll fully support you. Let's see what you do. And I understand that's important. So you have like 5 or 6 crazy people who are like, yeah, let's see what happens. And when we got together and we started having these conversations and really building what this would look like, and by all means, we're still new, even though we are experienced in what we do. This company is new. We are going to make mistakes. We're not coming out of the gate perfect, but we're streamlining things. We're making it better. We meet regularly, and that's the thing. We're kind of without ego. Like, nobody really wants the number 1 and 2 spot. We're all kind of like, okay, this is a round table. Let's discuss. And, nobody's, the bottom line is it's a business. We all want to make money. We all want to make comics and things like that. But nobody's star is shining brighter. Varian Grant is, he does so much, but he rarely does any self-promotion. We're like, come on, nobody knows. And he's like, it's okay. And I think that we're all like that. It's just, for me, it's that quiet strength. And I love that about this group.
Very cool. Very cool. Man, that's such a good, that whole segment was just so calming. It was endearing, and I'm not sure where to go next. I just feel like content in this moment.
That's kind of how we feel making comic books. We're making comic books fun again. We're saying no to the drama. We're saying no to the crab bucket, and we're focusing on making good comics. And man, I'll tell you what. Looking outside right now, 2020, it seems fake. It's so negative out there, and so people
it is fake.
Yeah, people don't need any more.
It's 100% fake. Don't believe for a second it's not fake.
Here's the thing. I keep expecting. I feel like I'm on one of those. I feel like I'm on one of those hidden camera shows, right? And I've been on it for like 4-5 months or so, or 6 months or so, and I'm just waiting for the guy to like pop out and say, "You've been X'd, punk," just waiting for that to happen. I'm like, now it all makes sense. It's a prank show.
It's the world's largest shell game. It has to be.
Yeah. And it's, so people want that escape. And so we're just excited to be making comics and making them fun, making comics fun again, and laughing with it and having fun with it and enjoying it. And yeah, there's people that see that and they don't like it. So they try to come and throw shade at it. But at the end of the day, they can go kick rocks, man, because it's comics and comics are fun, and that's what we're doing, making fun comics.
So you've got the 3x3s. Those are in production right now?
Yeah, we're actually getting pages and stories lined up for the first one right now. So we are. We're actually also still lining up creative teams to work on different IPs that we're working on. And if people have their own stories that are good, we did close submissions because it got a little overwhelming to kind of deal with that. But as we see a good writer come along, then we're like, hey, do you got something? So we're kind of inviting people to the table. on that one. But the 3x3s are currently being worked on. Our one shots are being worked on, and so we are going to have some of those. Like I said, we've got Austin Janowski's Dawn in the Dead zombie book. That is a beautiful book, by the way. That we are a couple of finishing touches on that, and as soon as he gets done with his Indiegogos and things like that, we're going to be running his towards the end of the year, beginning of 2021, and delivering on that pretty quickly. So that's the other thing. We've got a lot of experience with completing crowdfunding and delivering, and so we're using that as an opportunity to kind of boost the initial distribution so that we can really get the book in the hands of more people after the fact, and so we're working on those. And then the hybrid series is continuing on, and we've got the Guano Guy series, and we've got the Cat Dad and Supermom series that will continue on, and so we're pretty excited about it. We've got a lot happening. So yeah,
very cool, very cool. So now when did you guys announce? Because I just heard about it 2 weeks ago, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Somebody put a Twitter post on it, and or a Twitter post up, and you replied to it, and I was like, why have I not heard of this? Yeah. So when did you guys announce the formation?
I'll let Meredith take all that.
Oh man, you just outed me as like not doing my job effectively. What the heck?
Twitter is a very busy place.
What do you mean you just heard about us? Actually, we made a press release. It was June 17th is our birthday. Yeah. So that was when we did the official press release.
That's less than 6 weeks. That's not that bad.
Yep. Yeah. It hasn't been that long. It feels like an eternity for us. But yeah, it hasn't been that long. And people were like, well, we did get some people, everyone thinks they know everything about everything, and right. People was like, well, why did you launch without having a title to launch with right away and all that kind of stuff? It's like, no, we want to stay in the news cycle. So we're going to like slowly bring out all that information. We want you to know that we're working behind the scenes. We want you to anticipate what we're bringing to you, to know that something good is on its way.
Well, and that's sort of a stupid, that was sort of a stupid complaint anyway, because you guys have two ongoing properties that are well known. The Dreaded Dinosaur and Hybrid have been both of those projects have been going on for years.
Yep. And Cat Dad and Supermom, which came over, has had a successful Kickstarter and has been, it's still fairly new.
Isn't he on demand? Rob,
he's on
demand.
I'm on demand. We have issue 2 coming out. We're a project we love. We're getting it done. We're teaching morals with farts.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's actually a well worn road. Believe it or not, there's a long tradition of that.
But yeah, I remember the first time I saw the book, I was like, Rob, who's publishing this? Because at the time I was working with Starcross, and I was like, hey, I want to try to bring this over or whatever. He was not interested. And so when we started Terraform, I was like, what are you doing with Cat Dad? He's like, I'll bring it over. I'm like, yes, because it's one of my favorite books. And so yeah, so we've got established ongoings that we're doing. But yeah, Hybrids, 5 issues in, when we launched. Dreaded Dinosaur Man's been around for a while, and so one of the first print books that you're going to get of Dreaded Dinosaur Man is going to be with Terraform. So that he's going to have a unique story that's going to be Terraform property, and so it's well, not the property. It's still his property, but with the Terraform brand on it. So
yeah,
because we're not taking anyone's IPs away. So
right,
unlike some of them, but we have a really fair split for people, and we really just want to do really well by the creators and by the fans. That's really what we want to do. So yeah. Yeah, it was a stupid remark, of course.
That's a really stupid comment.
I thought it was too, but I'm like, yeah, that was stupid.
You can let me say things are stupid. I'm a jerk. Everyone knows. So
yeah,
you could even say I relish in it. But the way I figure it, I have to be true to myself. Absolutely. I don't always have to be a jerk, but if I lie about being a jerk, then I'm a liar and a jerk. I'd rather just be a jerk.
hear that.
Yeah, that's actually really fun. So do you have any are you at liberty to say which of your properties are going to share the universe together? Because I'll tell you, my favorite things about comics, right, are shared universes and heroic legacies. Those are like my two things that I love.
Yeah.
Right.
We're actually working on a book right now, and I can't mention too much about it, but we've got a guest writer who's putting together a pitch. But it's in the writer's room, so we're taking a couple different pitches for it, so we've got one that it actually is kind of a legacy, but will also touch on kind of this universe a little bit, be shared a little bit. I've got several that are in development that are all connected in some way to kind of the hybrid universe that I'm building. So you can, even without realizing it, at some point it'll overlap. And then we've got other things, that we'll build together. And so they may not connect to the hybrid universe, but they may connect to their own little universe with another couple books or things like that. So yeah, it's just all in development. And it's a big, the hope is that once we really get our footing and really start to gain some ground, that we will become an IP factory. And so you'll start to see a lot coming out. Yeah.
I think that's a goal for a lot of small, there's just so much money in IPs,
Yeah.
Like, there just is. If you can get those things that have the hooks, that have the feet, so to speak, to walk on to the next thing.
Yeah.
It could be a big flipping deal, man.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm already looking for animators for a couple of the things that we're doing. So first off, since hybrids is so established, I'm using that as a as kind of a guinea pig for some of these other things. Like we're developing an RPG role-playing game for it. And so I've been working with a guy named Nick Tockert, who's very good at developing these games. He creates all the kind of mechanics, and I create all the fluff to it, all the story stuff to it. And so we're actually, if we can hit the 10,000 mark on this Indiegogo, everyone's going to get a copy of the quick play. And then we're going to open it up as where you can purchase more. So we're actually going to do a very inexpensive quick play where people can get a hold of it. And so let's say the four of us sitting in this room would all have a copy, and we'll have pre-made characters and stuff in there. And it's a pre-made adventure that you guys can go through, right? To kind of for the anticipation of the big manual that's being developed. So we've got a big book that we're working on that's going to have a full character. You can create your own characters from scratch in there, and build adventures and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to have the player's manual, the GM guide, and all of the different stuff available in that book. And so that's a big undertaking. We'd hope to have it done by September. That I feel like was just wishful thinking, especially at the time, COVID was here, but we were still working with that. But that was before we decided to launch Terraform Comics. And so that was, that kind of set that production of that off just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we will launch that at hopefully the beginning of 2021, where you can get a hold of that maybe sooner. But we don't want to rush it. We want to make sure that the product is good and works well and is super playable for the fans. And so we will have that out. But yeah, so that's something we're doing with that IP. And so we're also looking at maybe doing animated shorts to try to partner with another like small animation studios trying to get their footing as well, and so have those partnerships that, who knows, maybe can grow both of our careers and make us all money.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. I would love to see Cat Dad and Supermom in animation. It's perfectly built for that.
So Rob, that's your story, yeah?
Yes, it is.
So tell us a little bit about the genesis of that idea.
Cat Dad and Supermom comes from the original story I wrote for my son Jax about him having dreams and figuring out who his superheroes are. Basically was the original concept, and it turned out to be his mom and dad. And it was supposed to be a little cute book that was going to go into a bigger universe that was going to be all about us creators coming together and showcasing our children in comic books. That fell apart because creators aren't always the most reliable people. They don't always hit deadlines.
Say, don't break my heart like this.
Oh yeah,
Rob, come on, man.
It's true. And my artist actually had his wife got pregnant, and they were being careful about the pregnancy at the time, so he had to step back a little way. So I hooked up with Raheel Mohsin, and we were talking. He's like, "I want to work with you," and I was like, "Cool." I was like, "What do you like that I created?" And I showed him all my books. And he's like, "What is that Jack's dad? I saw the Jack's book where I saw you had his dad and his mom be superheroes." And so we did this little 2-page short. He fell in love with the characters. Next thing you know, we were writing a story. And when I was writing the story, I kept going back and forth trying to figure out what I wanted to write. And one of the things I wanted to do is I was on a show doing a panel, and I said, people were asking questions. Someone said, "How do you cure writer's block?" And I'm like, you stop acting like it exists. There's no such thing as writer's block. So they're like, "Oh, you can write anything at any time?" I was like, "Sure, hit me with something." They're like, "Okay, write a story about an elephant." I said, "Okay." And then another person chimed in, "An elephant that farts." My main character in that book is the main bad guy, or the baddie of the book, I should say, is a farting elephant who uses the farts like a Green Lantern ring and can actually make shapes with the farts. So that is what I did when I was challenged, and I took these characters, and people fell in love with us. And we didn't have the easiest time on crowdfunding. Every time I went to crowdfunding, something was wrong. Luke remembers I actually had a pretty severe neck injury or a throat injury last year, to the point where I couldn't even talk. That happened during one of my campaigns and all that. But on the road, when people, like kids, would read it in front of my table, their parents would buy a book. They'd let the kid read it in front of me, and the kid would be like in tears that they'd been bullied. A couple of kids wanted hugs. Some of them bought a book for their friend. So I knew I was missing something, and somehow it just was bad timing. This year we came back to Kickstarter. We got a project we love. People really got behind it, and I'm super proud of it. It's one of the best things I ever did. It's about my son. So it has to be one of those things that I know he can grow up and be proud of, and he'll be like, "Wow, that's amazing." The standard was so high. Raheel pulled it off. Great editor with Chuck Pinot. And
oh yeah, I know Chuck. He's a good guy.
And it's an award winner too.
Yes,
Rob.
It won the award for IP of the Year. Did not expect that. Did not expect that with the Creator Awards. Chuck put it up for it, and I was shocked. I didn't think we were going to win. And we wound up winning, beating out adult titles because adults love them. It was one of those books that really connected with everybody. And one of the things when I was writing it, I wanted to feel like you could really sit down with your family, enjoy it, everyone enjoy it, but still teach a message that you could talk to your kids about. And it's about bullying as well. The actual character's a lunch lady who's forced into being who she is. So spoilers for the second issue, she does return, but she's not the baddie anymore. So I'm pretty excited about that, because one of the things we wanted to do is also show that the way we act in life is choice. So you always get to choose who you are. You don't have to let life choose for you.
I'll say this. I've read the script for number 2, and it is better than number 1, which is very rare when you see a first issue come out. Normally the second issue has little struggles, but the way Rob's approaching these are one-off stories where you don't have to read the next issue to continue a story. You're getting the story all in one sitting, but it's an amazing script. I can't wait to see the finished product. But what really turned me onto this idea is that we have so many IPs and books out there that are designed for my age, or the older reader,
right.
The more adult reader, and no one is creating stuff to get kids to fall in love with comics like what we did before. I had the amazing pleasure of talking to one of my favorite people in the world, someone I thought I was never going to have the opportunity to talk to in my life, with John Celestri, who was the artist, one of the animators for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Was my gateway drug into comics.
Okay.
So we were kind of talking today about we need to get young readers in. We need to have those all ages and teen books where it still appeals and it's fun, and you don't have to worry about the content that's in there for your kids, but that that it's teaching something moral and things like that. And so when I saw Cat Dad and Supermom, I was like, this is the kind of book that we need to have on our title and under our belt, because we want to do as much as we can to reach young readers. And so that's part of our focus, and our goal is to create books that young readers can get.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think is one of the this goes back to the distribution aspect, because I think part of the problem we have in Western comics is, first of all, I don't think we're giving the kind of material that catches kids, and second of all, we're not getting them to, even when they do, they're not getting to a place where kids can get them, right? Remember 10 years ago, DC had a whole line of Johnny DC, right? They were all marketed specifically to, like, 7 to 10 to 12-year-olds, but like you couldn't get them except in comic book shops. So almost nobody was buying them because they didn't have access to them, and the price point was prohibitive.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases. I think Scholastic's done a lot with their book fair model to keep comics available to kids, but in a lot of ways. But there's the mainstream Western comics doesn't have a way to get those comics into kids' hands very effectively, and I think that's a big problem with the whole floppy model right now. I mean, the point of the floppy was that it was dirt cheap. You could get the money mowing lawns or recycling cans and go down to the 5 and dime and pick up your comics and whatever else. And they were cheap because they were cheap. I mean, that was because of the marketing. And I think, like, looking at the what you guys are talking about with the 3x3s, you're getting you're getting 3 stories for the price of 1. You're packing some punch with it in a way that I think appeals back to that kind of thing. So
yeah, we're also looking at doing special reader editions, where we can maybe partner with someone like Peter Samedi to get a newsprint version of some of our books out as a gateway into those books for younger readers, or even people that might be on the fence about spending the kind of money that you would for a more collector's issue. Right. Because we know there's people that like to collect, and they like the nice glossy pages. They like the nice thick covers with all the bells and whistles. And we want to give them what they want. But at the same time, we also want to give people the opportunity to ease themselves into the pool, if you will. And so we're looking at all of those kind of things in our model to be able to do that specifically. And so, and I haven't really talked about it. This is kind of I haven't even talked about this with the Terraform folks, but I'm doing a series of homage prints for this Indiegogo that's going to be unlocked and added to a couple of the perks, a couple of the tiers next week. And so these homage prints, I'm thinking about turning them into covers and re-releasing the first 5 issues on newsprint with these homage covers, so that it's a real throwback to those older comics that the covers are representing, but make those at a lower price point so that people can get in fairly cheap, And so I've been playing around with that, and I'm looking at these covers. And so I've kind of had that idea, something we're going to be batting around and talking about. But, we've talked about it already, kind of making that happen. But we want to do it in not just like this lazy way where you just make a version of it and you just put reader on it or something like that. We want to make it special that people are going to want to go ahead and get a hold of it and look at it. And so that's something that we're playing with, how can we do that? How can we make it possible for new and younger readers to fall in love with comics the same way that we did?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's all really important stuff. So, but yeah. So are you guys going to be having I know you're talking about doing the Indiegogo thing, not the distribution thing. Are you guys going to have like a shop on your website as well?
I'll let Meredith take that. Meredith and Rob can talk about it. That's actually, logistics and media. That's not my role.
Well, actually, we do have a store up right now, and the 2 items that are on there are directed to Cat Dad and Supermom and Hybrids, the Sons of Gods trade paperback. So that is that's going directly to the Kickstarters, the Indiegogos, and that way it's supported through that venue. We will be adding more titles as they come. First issue of the Guano Guy, we should be putting that up fairly soon. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's a freebie for anybody who joins the newsletter. They're going to be getting the first issue of the Guano Guy by Mark Durden. So that's really cool. And then as we start releasing other titles, they're going to go up on the storefront. So if you go to Terraform Comics, I changed my name here so that you can see the link. There you go, terraformcomics.com.
we will eventually be putting all the physicals and stuff on the store, but right now, because how things are working, we're still rolling that out. We're utilizing Indiegogo and on demand to make that happen right now. So we're working smart, not hard.
Right. And I think those are, as long as you meet those goals, I think that's a really good platform. I was talking about Matt Krotz earlier, and what he did with Kyrie Volume 2, as far as breaking up the funding between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and fulfilling once the actual thresholds are met. I think was a really smart way of going about doing that. Super upfront about it, so that he could kind of play the system a little bit, but at the same time get the product that he wanted to get to the customer's hands. So
yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was real smart.
Yeah, right now is the perfect time to be creative. It is an independent creators market out there right now. I think that these companies, the big two that are dropping all these extra titles. I was just talking about it with my local shop owner, the guy that where I buy my books from. He was like, you don't need 5 titles of Batman. You've got Batman Dark Knight, Batman Detective, Batman Batman this, Batman Goes to the Grocery Store. I
want that one.
Yeah, you've got all these things, and you don't need that. You don't need 5 Spider-Mans. You need like the main storyline and maybe a side arc, or something, but you don't need all of that stuff. And so that leaves some freedom for the wallets of the people who buy comics. And so there's this weird thing that happened during the pandemic is everyone had a run on smoked sausage, and so I went to the grocery store, and we normally get the Roger Wood lumberjack smoked sausage, not the spicy stuff, because my wife and my son can't handle that stuff. So we got the Roger, we go there. And so we go pick that up, pick up some of that, so we have something to eat, in case we want some, proteins. And there's, and they run out of meat or something. Like they were doing that here in Florida. I don't know if they did that where you were at, but they started running out of meat. So we go to the store to do that, and the Roger Wood is all gone. And all that's left is Georgia Boy, right? So I buy Georgia Boy. Well, I'd say the first time I cooked up the Georgia Boy, I was like, man, this stuff's better than Roger Wood. This stuff is good. And what happened was, now I go back to the store, and guess what's left on the shelf, and guess what's gone? Georgia Boy's gone, and I've got tons of Roger Wood on the shelf. So now I had to eat Roger Wood the other day. I was like, I kind of missed the Georgia Boy. And so because the one that had the shelf branding and had the best location on the shelf, and that people thought was the best item, because it ran out or it wasn't available, they had to move to what was second best, or the lower tier. And it turns out that the lower tier, even though it's cheaper, was better. I like it better. And a lot of people feel the same way. I think the same thing is happening with comic books, because things went pencils down and you couldn't get those main comics. People were still wanting to buy comics and have entertainment. And so they just went to the independents who kept their pencils a moving. And people are realizing, I can get just as good, if not better quality and storytelling from this independent market. And now you're seeing a shift. You're seeing a shift move from strictly those big two into some of the independent market. And my local shop is following along. He is stocking the shelves with independent books. And about 50% of his store has independent books in it. And it is amazing to be able to see things that I've never seen. He's finding stuff that I've never even heard of. And it's really great as a consumer. Even better as a guy who makes independent comic books.
Right. So, yeah, that's an exciting thing. Sorry, I was messaging somebody and my brain got all distracted.
That happens.
So yeah, it does. I'm a fairly distractible person, so always too many things happening at once. So, okay, let's paint a picture. It is 3 years from now, so that's 2023. What have you guys accomplished?
That's a good question. We will have at least one, if not two, of our IPs picked up for syndication on animation or live action. We will have at least 15 titles strong, and all of us will be doing this full time, as well as some of the creators that we're working with, and we'll be finding new and emerging talent that will become new household names. That's what will happen in 3 years.
I would actually love to see global distribution and maybe printing overseas. Maybe translations.
That's good too. Let's throw that in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 3 years is plenty of time.
Rob, what about you? Yeah, 3 years.
We're going to make comics, and they're going to be comics people like. They're going to come back and buy more comics.
I love Rob's answer. He's like, what do you do over at Terraform? We make comics.
How do you do it?
What do you
print them?
do? It's in the name. Cheapers.
Yeah. Someone asked you, like, Rob, what do you do? He goes, we make comics. He goes, well, how are you going to do? What's your business model? Well, we make comics. Well, how? We print them.
We make stories and then get people pictures on them, and then we put them on paper. Come on. Yeah. How tough is that?
Well, how are you going to make money? By selling those comics.
By selling those comics. So I did notice I was perusing your website a little while ago, and I noticed you guys have a merch to be determined section. What kind of ideas do you have for merch? What kind of stuff are people asking for?
Oh, I love
swag. Or are they asking yet?
I don't know that anybody's asking. It's only been 6 weeks, but I'm wanting t-shirts and hats and bracelets and toys and
stickers. For some reason, stickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, people love stickers.
Man, some people really, really love stickers.
I know. I personally don't get it, but
I don't understand it either. So I don't even really like stickers because what do you put them on? Right?
Your laptop.
I have one sticker that's Rob's, and I had to get spanked for it.
Yeah, that's right. We discussed that earlier. Anyway, my thing is that if you put your sticker on your laptop's good for 3, 5, 10 years if you're really good with computers, and want to replace the entire innards by then, right? So, then you've got it, and it's like, oh look, well here's this really great paperweight I've got with this awesome sticker. I guess I'll keep it around because I like the sticker. No, you have to pitch it.
Some people don't put the stickers on anything; they just keep them.
Yes, that's true. I have some
stickers. Yeah,
I have some that I just don't want to throw away, so they're sitting in a box somewhere.
We've got some really cool. We got some really cool stickers.
Oh, you've got a binder of stickers.
It's trading cards.
Oh, okay. Right? Well, I would do that.
Marvel trading cards, and so sometimes, I'll get if I get a really cool sticker that comes with something like, here's this Walmart sticker from the gold standard. It just came last week. That ends up with there next to my trading cards. I've got see, where's another cool sticker? Okay, here we go.
That's a really good idea. Stickers that fit into those card holders.
Yeah, where's my thing? There it is. There's USAGI. That one's that's got a good sticker. I've got the Earthworm Jim temporary tattoo is not a temporary tattoo. It's next to my trading cards.
Nice.
So
I love that.
So yeah, that's what I do with them because I don't want to stick them on anything. But sometimes I'll get a weird shaped one or sized one that I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with that. RJ at Critical Blast sent me he had a who wants stuff? And I said, I'll take free stuff, I guess. So he sent me some stickers and a magnet, and the magnet's sitting on my comic file cabinet over there.
Well, see, a magnet is useful. You can put it on the refrigerator. You can use it to hang stuff, So, but I never really understood the sticker thing.
I don't know what to do with the sticker this big.
Merch, I would love to see T-shirts, cups, definitely. I would be all in for a coffee cup.
Oh yeah. I say we do it. I say that's our plan for next week. We find out how to get coffee mugs on the store because I need a coffee mug.
Zip it, Stone. Give me until September at least.
Okay, September 1st. Our goal: have $8,000. Have $8,000 on our first Indiegogo and a mug on our store. That's the plan.
September is only 12 days away.
That's an eternity.
11. 11.
Yeah.
I did that wrong.
That's an eternity if you're hopped up on coffee. Oh, but there's the problem. How are we going to get we got to have the mug before we can get hopped up on the coffee.
See, unless you just want to drink your coffee out of an inferior non-Terraform mug, but who wants to slum it like that? Come on.
I know. You know what? I'm at the point now I'm just crunching on the beans.
So I do have some really, speaking of stickers, I got some really cool stickers. So I originally got this Trashman Chibi sticker done by Joe Spicer. And I was like, I want to add, like, for my backers, like as soon as we get like to hit a certain backer mark, I want to add a new sticker to the sticker pack. So instead of be like, oh, everybody gets the sticker. If you've bought the sticker pack or it's part of your package, then you get the extra sticker in there. I made the mistake on a few of my last Kickstarters to be like, and everybody, I was like Oprah in it. Everybody gets a sticker. You get a sticker. You get a sticker. And oh yeah. I was like, wait a second. Someone paid $5 for a comic book, and I'm sending them $15 worth of swag. Can't do that. So I figured out a way. Like, here's how we add these extra things in there. If you have that perk already, and it's in there, if you've got the sticker pack perk. Well, and if we hit these certain metrics and goals, then we're going to add new stickers. So I was like, there's 4. I've got this cover coming from a guy named Kane and White, and I don't know if you know his art or not. Are you familiar with Kane and White? The dude is amazing. And so I've been a fan of his for probably 6-7 years. I found out, when I was looking into digital art, I found some of his videos. And so he is working on this cover. And so there's 4 characters going to be on the cover. And it's Trashman, it's Chlorine, Ion, and Bone. And I'm really excited about it because he showed me the layout. It's amazing. It's really good. It's really good. And so I thought, man, I've got the Trashman sticker that's already a chibi. So I got a hold of Joe and I said, Joe, here's what I want you to do. I want you to make me these other 3 characters. And so we are going to, at different backer goals, we're going to throw in a new chibi sticker to the sticker pack. So if we get to 250 backers, which I know this sounds like a lot, but I think it's very possible. If we get to 250, then you'll get all 4 of those chibi stickers. And so the first one we're going to add to Trashman is his main squeeze Chlorine, and then we're going to add Bone, her little brother, and then the one I'm really excited about is the Ion sticker because it is so cool. It is so cool. So there are going to be die cut chibi stickers that you can keep adding into that. So we've already got a bunch of other ones, but those are going to be really cool. So can't wait to add those in. Stickers. Chibi stickers. Yeah.
So very cool. So and I think I've asked you this before, and I do not remember the answer on it there. I think the last time you were on we asked this, but the hybrid story, that's a big story. How long is it right now, and how long do you intend to make it?
It is a big story. It's with any big story, it takes time to unlock everything, and kind of bring everything out, so you don't want to just blow all the plot in the first few pages. Those things need to unfold. And so right now it's 5 issues with 1 side story and 1 end credit story. And so I was actually just working on the page layout because we're going to have 128 pages in this right now, and it's $25 entry level to get in with this. So it's all 5 issues plus all this back stuff, and then seven pages of additional content where I go through some commentary, show some pictures, and talk about the process of writing the story and kind of all of those things, And then so that's included in there. But if we can get to the 8,000 mark, we're going to add 12 more pages, which 10 of those pages are going to be these kind of the backup stories, these little 2-page backup stories. So you're going to get a lot of content right there. But this arc is just so that I can tell another arc. The arc I want to tell is one called The Necromancer. And the problem is if I tell that story, no one's going to care because they don't care about the characters. So I have to get to that point. In order to get to that point, I had to establish the characters in Trash Day arc. And then the next arc is the Love Lost arc, which sets up the Necromancer arc. So it's going to be a total of 15 floppies or 3 volumes of trade. all together. So that's kind of the big story that we unlock. Kind of what's going on, the world and the universe around us becomes a character and all this kind of thing. So it's a big undertaking. And I've been working with Chuck Pino as the editor for those. And so the first, he went back and did copy edit on the first 4 issues. And then on the 5th issue, he did a little bit of input and story edit. Then he was very, very instrumental in the Serafina Zero book and the 4 pages exclusive, like it's like an end credit scene. It actually closes off the story. Basically, it's what you get there, and he was very instrumental in that. But so he's kind of helped build a lot with those, and then we've really we've got a lot of strings going. But unfortunately, we're not going to be working together too much anymore when it comes to the hybrid stuff. But I did sign on a new editor. And so she's going to be working really hard to help keep the continuity going and follow all the threads, because 5 issues is a lot already that started, but trying to get to the end of 15 is going to be insane.
Right.
We don't want to have any, like Rob says, someone's going to ask, so you better have an answer for that, and so, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you? I mean, I guess how deep is your continuity with that? I mean, like how far? So let me back up here. When we were developing the Ideal Comics universe back in the day, I started this timeline, this documentation, and like I sort of defaulted into being the historian of our universe, and so I have like extensive notes about all this kind of stuff and where history is different going back to the beginning of time and all this kind of stuff. I'm a real nut for that kind of thing. But so when you were working on hybrids, was that something you started with as far as those pieces, or is that something that you're sort of developing to fill in the gaps as you go?
No, it was definitely pre-established through the whole process. In fact, I started developing the story probably, so I've been drawing it since 2015, 2016 is really when that thing came out. I've been drawing it for that long, but prior to that, I had been developing the story since the early 2000s. And so we are, I think I was 22, 23 when I first started that. So it's been a while. It's been a while working on it. And, all of that development all went into the universe first, and kind of the history of what was happening, and kind of I always think the protagonist is they're great. That's who we latch onto, but it's the antagonist that really develops the plot, and so a lot of it went into researching, because I try so much to tie in actual historical facts and kind of those conspiracy theory elements. Okay. With Nephilim, ancient aliens, pyramids, Greek gods, Atlantis, all of that stuff. There's a little string and little bits of evidence that if you really study that stuff, there's a little string that kind of can attach to all of those things. And so that's what I do. And over time, I'm trying to draw that string between all of those things to also kind of pull in the imagination of that, hey, this could be a world that we actually live in. So that all had to be established before I even started writing the story. And so, why people have powers, where those powers were developed, who are the people that are the players on the good side and the bad side, what's happening. And then all of that stuff is in the background happening. But what we focus on is just this, we start to focus on this. And as they discover all of the facts, so do the readers. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, I love the whole world building aspect of it, of trying to find out all the pieces pulled together. Actually, when we came up with the Ideal Comics universe, it didn't start, Chris and I didn't set out to form a universe. We were coming up with our own IPs to try to pitch to different companies, try to showcase those. And we met every week. We're both just a couple of writers. We met every week to go over each other's pitches, go over each other's story ideas, high points, low points, give each other pointers. And we started realizing that there were all of these common themes between our stories, between our characters, and they could all fit together. And so we just decided to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And where can we find those books?
Oh, well, you can't. We've had, I tell you, man, we've just had so much. You can, I'm really bad at like the internet, right? So, and you can look at forceofgoodandevil.net for our silly teenage angst stories. Right now we're in the process of relaunching or republishing our archives for that. It's almost 600 pages of silly high school heroes stuff. But we don't have any kind of web store right now. We have had in the past and it went away, and it's sort of a big deal. But I'm working toward learning how to do that so we can get that going again, and get PDF versions of our first two anthologies. We've got those. They're not available for purchase, but we could sell them through PayPal. Somebody wanted to. So yeah, if you really want any of our stuff, email me. Of course, Forces is free. But yeah, that's what's going on with that one. We are Barry, one of our other partners, Barry Tetz, and I are working on a murder mystery plus monsters story called Sola Voce, and it is was available. We did a crowdfund on that last summer, and we have run into all kinds of production problems on that one. But once that's we didn't in go, but once that book is finished, we'll be relaunching it on Kickstarter as well. So, but I'm not gonna do that until it's actually done, because this year has been horrible. So, if there's anything I learned, it's not to do that again. But
yeah, that's something that I'm learning, is that I want to make sure that before I launch anything, I want to have, especially since it's my first one, I want to have the product done, and if anything, kind of using the crowdfund to help offset the printing costs.
Yep.
And costs.
Those are all smart things, and that's the thing about Meredith. She's a very smart person. So when she approaches this not like a lot of first-time creators where they just kind of go off all half-cocked with it. She's really thinking it out well, and she also thinks kind of like that whole writing thing. You were talking about world building. I think one of my favorite things about world building is this: when I write, there's some predictability and some chaos, some unpredictability. And I feel like the predictability comes from the characters. Like once you establish their personality and who they are, they should be very predictable, which is kind of my problem with some of the mainstream comics right now. Like there's some predictability with those characters that are long established personalities, and they're doing things that are not within their personality as a character, which is then becomes unpredictable. But the thing is, the fun part about writing is taking these predictable personalities and then creating the unpredictable elements of the universe and the world around them, and then figuring out how they're going to respond to those things.
That's the joy of the monster of the week formula, right?
Yeah.
Is you take Scully, you take Mulder, they're fixed personalities, they always respond in the same way.
Yep.
And then you present them with something they've never imagined.
Yeah.
And then you get to see, okay, here's something they've never imagined. How does it fit into their rigid paradigms?
Yeah.
And that just, I don't know, that's the joy of that kind of formula. And I used Scully and Mulder just because that was, a staple of the show, but every Batman adventure was that way until, the Batman Year One,
Yeah.
So that was just sort of the way of it. And I don't know, that's just something that it's a tried and true formula.
I feel like it just works so well with the storytelling, because then what happens is you start to understand that person's personality even more. Mm-hmm. And it might even teach something about your own personality to yourself. You might learn something about yourself, but at the same time, what I really like about it is, and this is one of the things that's really bugged me with comics these days, is they've kind of stripped down the hero to be nothing. There's no real hero anymore. They've tried to go. I mean, I understand, the Watchmen was really popular. And so what they did is we mentioned earlier, they just went realism all the way, just too much with the realism. I think that heroes, you should be able to look up to them. There should be, in some cases, and you might write a title or something like that. I think, one of the things that we're working with Rob and I, there's an element of realism to it. But there's also going to be that, hey, I can look up to this character because they have some moral high ground that maybe myself doesn't have. And it's something to look forward to. Batman had a compass, and Superman had a compass, and these characters were more than just creatures, just people on figments of someone's imagination on a piece of paper. They became, well, I want to be like a Superman.
I think if you look at the current crop of DC movies, well, maybe not current because I quit watching because it bored me. Because anyway, one of the things that came to is because because they couldn't point to the an intractable heroism in either Batman or Superman, right? But they wanted them to have some sort of internal nobility. So in order to balance that, they had to make them stupid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
and so it wasn't in Superman, in Man of Steel, it wasn't that Superman killed a guy. A lot of people were upset about that, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem is that Superman was stupid enough to be put in that position to begin with.
Yeah.
Right. The movie is a giant plot hole to bring you to the point of letting Superman kill a guy. But the problem is, in order to do that, you had to have a stupid Superman.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened in Batman v Superman. It wasn't that Bruce was willing to use lethal force to stop somebody who he thought was a killer. People were upset about that, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem is that he was too stupid to realize he was being played like a sucker for the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the problem. So in order to keep that scrap of heroism in there, they had to make them really dumb.
Yeah.
And so if they're not real heroes, they're just pawns in some large game. And man, that's unsatisfying.
Yeah. So we try to with all of our hero books. That's what we try to do. I know Meredith is working on a hero book, and there's a quality of that greatness within that character. I try to put that in the kind of the team ensemble of hybrids, and then Cat Dad and Supermom is, there's these parents that really are really solid heroes, and I'm telling you, I think they could work on so many levels for a lot of different people, and so it's trying to keep in step with that and give people something to look up to.
Well, I come with a background in writing prose, and character development is everything. As the creator, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but as the creator, you know everything about that character. You know what they like to eat. You know when they love to sleep, what they snack on, how they react to certain things. And that might not carry through in your story, but in a way it does. It should influence how they react and how they respond to certain situations and things, because as the creator. And then it's your responsibility to try and portray that as best as you can, to get it from the vision in your head and travel down your arm to your pencil, or if you're typing up the story and things like that. So, I mean, and by that is familiar. That is human nature. We want those things. Now you can take that character and you can put them on Mars or put them in some strange universe, because we all in a way react the same way. I mean, if you've ever studied facial expressions and things, and those micro expressions, when people are upset, we all look the same. We all have that same reaction, those same tics and things. Put that in the character. You can put them anywhere in the world, but as long as you know what they're doing, that just makes a compelling story, because we are familiar with it.
And like when you take Hulk, you throw him on a planet, where he's, where that environment changes. It's the unknown, it's the unpredictable. But Hulk is predictable in that. And so in that particular environment, Hulk thrives, because that's who he is.
And
but
how is
here,
that world going to How is that world going to react to him?
Yeah. And that's the fun part about writing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was one of the fun, I think one of the probably the funnest aspects, well, maybe not funnest, but I really enjoyed it or appreciate it, of Silver Age Superman stories, right? You have Lex Luthor has this very defined motivation for vengeance because he's bald and he's mad about it. It's silly. Of course, your target audience is, 7 to 9 year olds, right? So 7 to 9 year old boys. So his motivation can be silly. But one of the funnest things about that, I don't know if you're aware of Lex Luthor on like Planet Luthor, those stories. But Lex was fighting against the backstory. Lex was fighting against Superman. He built a rocket, and something went wrong with it. And instead of the attack he had, he ends up leaving Earth and traveling to another planet, where he basically becomes John Carter of Mars. He becomes the hero of this planet. He marries an alien woman. They have children together. But every time, and he's there and he has his wonderful life, but every once again, he's got to go back home to Earth so he can fight Superman because that guy's got to get taken down. So Luthor, who's the evil villain because of his vengeance, when you take his vengeance motive out, he's really not that bad a guy. In fact, he's an amazing guy. And so it's one of those things where you're really thinking about that whole thing. The Silver Age Luthor was silly, but was way more endearing than the modern age Luthor, who's just vile. There really isn't any goodness in the way he was portrayed.
But here, let me throw this at you.
Yeah.
Isn't sometimes the Silver Age Luthor more endearing than some of our modern age heroes?
Yes. Yes.
How sad is that?
I think it's a given. That's the nature of the political ethos that's taken over the creative spheres in the last 40 years. We've extracted this sort of nuance of we can disagree and still get along. So
I just want to make good stories.
Yeah, and the thing about that though, I don't want to get too far into this because it's 9. This is a really complicated question, but what makes it good? And saying I want to make good stories assumes that good stories can exist, and that is itself is a debated question.
All right, for me, okay, I'm going to throw in my girl card for a moment. I watch World of Dance and Jennifer Lopez, and when she sees something good, she says she's got the goosies, right? When I see a good story, it gives me the goosebumps. I get chills up and down my arms. My hairs will rise up, and it doesn't matter. It could be an all ages book. It could be a horror book. It could be a romance. It doesn't matter because that's storytelling. If I can connect to the character, if it makes me feel something, whether it's anger, it could be anger. It could make me laugh out loud. Whatever the case may be, if it's touching that emotional core, then it's a good story. I don't care what genre it is.
There was one particular scene in the issue 5 of Hybrids that one of the people that got a hold of the book, when they read it, they messaged me right away, and they said, "Dude, what the heck? Like, what did you just do to me?"
I know that wasn't me, but I think I know exactly which panel you're talking about.
Yeah, right there towards the end. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It actually inspired your short story. So I don't want to give spoilers away because I want people to read the books. Please, by all means, swing on over to, you can go to lukestonestudios.com and you can just follow the link at the very top. It'll take you right to the Indiegogo. And actually here in about an hour, I'm supposed to be turning off the first 48-hour flash sale where you save $5 off the cover price or off the price listed of the special covers. One of them is an exclusive to Indiegogo only, and the other one is just a special holofoil cover. So,
And I have to
look at me, I'm always plugging, aren't I?
That's okay.
That's the
really.
business, man. That's the business.
No, but I have to say with Luke's books, I made sure when this was on Kickstarter that I ordered all 5 because I wasn't familiar with his books. And I did that because I wanted to make sure that I had that story arc, at least the first one. And I'm so glad that I did, because if I only got the first book, I would have been so mad. Because that's what I do. I binge read. I have to read from cover to cover. And so I literally just sat there and I had all 5 books and I went, and I was like, holy cow, it was so good. I cannot wait for these extra pages. Plug for you, Luke. Really good job. And again, when I saw this particular moment that we were talking about, it inspired the story. I mean, it stayed with me, and I said, I have to write this down.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to write that moment. It was hard to draw that moment. Like it cut my guts out. Like I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I have the power to change it, and I didn't.
Yeah, but that's it though. I mean, as a creator, if you're sitting there and it touches you, if it makes you go, oh man, I'm sick to do this, and you do it anyway, that's compelling.
See,
if it touches you, it's going to touch your readers.
I have a very different experience because when I'm creating something, I'm very detached for the most part. Because the machine has to work like it will. The pieces have to fit where they were. And sometimes I'll be in the moment of something where I'm talking about somebody else's story, or if I'm looking at a completed piece, something that I've done before and coming back to, it'll hit me. It's like, well, that was really impactful. But in the middle of it, it's almost a mania where it's like, yes, this has to happen this way, and these people need to suffer. They have to suffer.
I set that up at the beginning, but if I can feel their suffering when I go through it. So as poignant as that particular moment was for people, I mean, even my editor, even Chuck got a hold of me. Like when he saw that, he's like, dang, man, that is rough. Rough as that is, the next arc is I have taken so long writing it because I just don't want to do it. I know I need to do it. It has to happen. But I'm like, I don't want to do it. Because I'm like, I'm such a jerk. I am a jerk. That's why I love reading stuff like Cat Dad and Supermom and stuff like that, where I'm like, this makes me happy, because I don't always make me happy in my own writing.
But you have to let the characters speak, I mean, you are just the medium of which they have the voice,
Yeah. And I think part of the thing is, I really believe the purpose of art, right, is to reflect a culture back to itself, right?
Yeah.
And is to speak truth through experience, right? So, I think that truth and beauty are the ultimate goals, but because we're talking about our experiences, we don't always experience truth and beauty. And sometimes in order to appreciate truth and beauty, we have to suffer, because that's just part of it. I mean, like we wouldn't exist if our mothers hadn't suffered, right? That's just a fact of nature. It's part of our existence. And I think we can accept that. But I think we have to look at that. And that's one of the things I think that separates a lot of modern storytelling from what I'm going to call pre-modern storytelling. Is that the idea that even the suffering, the goal of it is to bring about that beauty and that truth. It's not to wallow in the suffering. It's not to wallow in the baseness of our existence. That we can rise above that. And I think that on the one hand, you have the utter nihilism of a lot of modern superhero comics, where it's just all gritty and all death and all sorrow. And then you have the kind of the reaction to other things, or people that want to make the stories have no weight and no meaning because they don't want to face suffering dead on. And so you just have comics about people going to get, French fries and talk about getting their nails done, or, and I'm not meaning to bag on slice of life stuff because that can be good too, but sometimes if it's, I think people avoid harshness, a nihilistic harshness, by replacing it with a nihilistic hedonism. In stories. And that's kind of a complex thing to end a show on, but it's almost time. Guys, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on. To Rob, to Luke, to Meredith. I think it's so cool you guys are working together on projects, kind of making that happen. In the description, there will be the link to the Indiegogo for the hybrids. What's wrong with me? I'm also going to put the link to the store where you guys can get, the on demand for Cat Dad and Supermom. They're on the Terraform store. So
you definitely want to check that out. Yeah,
definitely check it out. Next week on the show, Doug Garrett is going to be here. Tyler Carpenter is going to be here. Possibly Paula Ritchie. Hopefully she can come. And we're going to be having a powwow about the importance of staying independent in making independent comics. And so that's going to be our theme for then. So, but yeah, that's the show, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you give Terraform Comics a look on. They're on Twitter. Are you guys on Facebook?
We're all over the place.
Everywhere. We're everywhere, man.
Facebook, Excellent. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and the website.
There you go. Mm-hmm. So all of the links at all of the places. But thanks for coming on. And till next time, keep reading comics, everybody. Have a good one.
Yeah.